Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Now that we've arrived here, I would not change a thing. Knew that we'd survive here and all the goodness we would bring. Of this I sing. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming in sunshine, everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the front line, ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming.
Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
Okay, thanks very much, Linda. Good morning, councillors, officers and public. I'd like to welcome everyone along for our ordinary council meeting for the 27th of April 2023, and I'd like to begin by acknowledgement to country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians in the land in which we meet today, the Darumbal people, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I also would like to extend that respect to our neighbouring Aboriginal peoples within our local government area, the Gungaloo Nation people, the Barada, Cabelbarra and Yeddamarala people. Also acknowledge the Torres Strait Islander people whose lands are in the Torres Strait but who live and work on Aboriginal lands. Councillors, leave of absence and apologies. We have a full house. Confirmation of the minutes in the previous meeting of the 12th of April 2023 be confirmed as true and accurate record of those minutes. Could I have a mover and a second with regards to that? Move Councillor Smith, seconded Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. We'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Nil business outstanding, public forums, deputations, presentations of petitions and committee reports. Nil. Declarations of matters on the agenda, Council. I'm reading from my iPad instead of the screen. Council, we have a declaration matter on the agenda. Councillor Mather has informed the meeting. Councillor Mather, would you like to
yes,
do that one?
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 11.3, development application for a material change of use with multiple dwelling 12 units. As I have a close personal relationship with Robert and Judy Kalper, who reside in Diploma Street, Norman Gardens, which is in close proximity to the proposed development, I will be dealing with this declarable conflict of interest by leaving the meeting while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Thanks very much, Councillor Mather. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Declaring that I've got a prescribed conflict of interest with item 11.2, which is the planning overlay major amendment planning scheme, because my wife and I have property at Riverside Waters, and Riverside Waters is mentioned in brief in that report, but would rather leave the meeting at the time. Yep.
Thanks very much. That's noted, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, advice please from the CEO here. So Councillor Mather's conflict of interest is a family friend. Now that friendship is obviously much closer with Councillor Mather's than me, but we grew up together, so it's been a lifelong family friend.
So you'll probably ask the question, would you ask them to your wedding party if you were to get married again?
In the wedding party?
Yeah.
No, but to the wedding, certainly, yes.
Yeah, I'd say you do have a personal interest, so that would be a conflict.
Would be a conflict of interest?
Yeah. And be
All right.
declarable as well.
We'll cut and paste that in for yours.
All right, and while we're doing that one, here's a tricky one, because I would have the same conflict with Councillor Wilkinson. We are close.
You don't own property.
No, but I'm a friend. I'm equally a friend of yours as I am outside of this.
We're getting out of the cheat sheet. We'll look at it.
I didn't get invited to the wedding.
Now, who's getting married? Yeah, no, that's okay. We'll come back to those, councillors, if there's no item.
Let's do the cheat sheet first, if we can keep going.
Okay, we'll come back with that detail, councillors, before we move on with that item 5. So, as I went through before, there's nil presentations, and we'll move straight into item 10, the council delegate reports. Item 10.1, councillors, I've had representation there for my council discretionary fund application for the Golden Mount Festival with regards to some sand that previously was supported through sponsorship but wasn't available this year. So as we're a major funder through the CAP program, I felt that I had money in my discretionary fund to support this one, so happy to support this one. So I seek council's endorsement for that. Move Councillor Wilkinson, seconded Councillor Latcham. Any questions, councillors? I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. While I'm speaking on that one, council, I also realise the Red Shield appeal fund is request there as well. Councillor traditionally offers $1,000 for sport, but I felt that I still had some discretionary fund allocation there, and to donate to double that allocation this year to for this time of need to add a bit more to the good work that the Red Shield appeal contributes. So happy to put $1,000 up in that one. Move Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Wickerson. No discussion. I'll put that one. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to item 10.2, Council Discretionary Fund application from Councillor Deputy Mayor Neil Fisher for the Rockhampton Horticultural Society Incorporated.
Mr Mayor, I just wanted to raise one thing. I'm the patron of the Horticultural Society. I know that is not a conflict, but I just thought I'd raise that at the table at the start to advise councillors there that I've been patron, I think, for the last 15 years.
Okay, and councillor, because it is over the allocated amount, it needs to come to the council table for decision. So can we seek a mover in a second with regards to that request or recommendation? Move Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Mathers. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Okay, council, we'll see if we can come back to the... before we move on to that, we might be able to deal with those outstanding items, potentially. Yeah, it's unfortunately this is the game we're in at the moment. It's Councillors, just while we got this break in the meeting, I'd just like to thank everyone for your support through the Anzac Day services. I know we have a number of services and we all can't be at the one location during the day, so I'd just like to thank everyone for their involvement through the Anzac Day, and special mention to Councillor Wickerson with the committee and the work that's been undertaken there. So please accept their support and. That organisation, where everything went very smoothly. I'm sure it's like a duck on the water. There's a lot happening underneath, but that said, from all reports, the community is very happy with the running of the Anzac Day services this year. So thank you, and can you thank the committee and everyone in volunteer in the SES component as well? Okay, thank you. Okay, how are we tracking, Evan? Okay, right, we'll continue on until we get to those areas, councillors. We've moved those ones previously, so we'll move on to 11.1, invitation to participate in the Building the Next Economy program. And Christine is going to present that report for us, councillors. So welcome to the meeting, Christine, and we'll deal with that matter.
Good morning, Mayor and councillors. Council's received an invitation to participate in the Building the Next Economy program. This is a new initiative from the Next Economy that aims to really support regions as they strengthen and diversify their regional economies and as the world transitions to net zero emissions. So the Next Economy is inviting councils from across central Queensland and also the Mackay, Whitsundays and Isaac regions to join the program, which will be commencing next month in May 2023. So we've had a councillor briefing session obviously around this program proposal. Just like to add to that after those discussions that we have heard already that Mackay and Isaac regional councils have confirmed participation in the program. We've also done some due diligence checks on the Next Economy and we're very satisfied that there are no concerns identified at this point in time. So over to you for some consideration. Thank you.
Councillors, Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and through to Christine, just a couple of questions, if I may. Firstly, the recommendation is to obviously participate in this program. Is that phase 1 or is that phase 1, 2 and 3?
As identified in the report, there is a hold point after phase 1 where we can make a decision about the value provided by this program. Obviously, it is a $5,000 contribution to participate in phase 1, and we can make a decision about subsequent phases at that point in time.
Okay, so it doesn't commit us at this point in time to phase 2 and 3. So we can put our toes in the water and see if it's the mix for where we want to head as a region. And the second part to this is reading the report. It seems to be very, very heavily loaded to jobs and growth into Gladstone, and I can't see what it's in it for this region. So I'm a bit concerned about that. Can you provide any more context on where it's been at this point in time?
Certainly. This is a region-wide program for Central Queensland, Mackay, Whitsunday and Isaac. Obviously, Next Economy has worked very closely with the Gladstone Regional Council on their own very specific economic transition program, but this one is a region-wide program. It's very similar to the Clean Growth Choices program that we've been involved in the past, and certainly the work that has underpinned our Making Water Work program. So similar process of regional analysis, stakeholder engagement and initiative development. That's a very similar model being progressed for this, and certainly something that we can identify and explore those regional opportunities for us here in Rockhampton.
Okay, and last question, if I may, Mr Mayor. Almost forgot it. Escaped me.
And I think it's important that we're in the tent where you can see the Gladstone's been part of that, so that's why they seem to be focused on that area. So I think it's important that we be part of that going forward, and to make sure that we're part of that CQ region, and it's about that those job opportunities and transitioning into the future about where that our economy is going.
And I get that, Mr Mayor. My last question was, if I may, was about, is this purely just about renewables, or is it about exploring all different types of the next economy, including nuclear?
This program is about economic transition planning and preparation. So it's about the fact that there is change and identifying how we can best position ourselves for that change. So I imagine it's got a very broad gambit that's going to be considered as part of this, and it's up to council to, I guess, guide that process as to what we want to see coming out from this for the region.
All right, thank you.
And again, it builds on that regional collaboration that we've been very strong on as a council since we've been in office. So I think that it dovetails into that approach as well. So I don't think we can disbenefit from that. Further lights, Councillor Wickerson.
Well, thanks, Mayor. Just to offer my support to this proposal. And we've seen before when we've discussed a range of things that there's diversity of opinion around the community and also around the table, and that's a healthy thing. This report isn't about picking one over the other or the attributes of wind over solar over nuclear. It's not about that. It's about being part of the collaboration of councils throughout the whole region, which has some other spin-offs as well that, going into the future, we need to be able to work with our partners right throughout the region. So this one thing on its own will help strengthen those ties through this discussion. But just to open our minds up that there are other alternatives out there and options, and even things that, as Councillor Fisher said when we debriefed it the other day, that it may be something not even on the radar at the moment, but if we're in the right mindset, that we're looking over the horizon, grasping what these new economies and technologies and opportunities might be, well, we're in the right place to work with others to achieve those goals. We don't want to miss the boat. Again, we need to be on the front foot, not catching up.
No, you're right. No, I think there's opportunities where a lot of these components for these projects are built overseas, and if that manufacturing can come back into Australia, we want to be in that space and putting our best foot forward in that space as well for jobs and growth as well. Councillor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move the motion.
Happy to move? Yep. I'll second. Happy to second. So, councillors, there's no further discussion around that.
Can I speak to the motion?
Yep.
Yep, thank you. So just to add further to the arguments placed forward this morning, that the program's been designed as a response to actual councils putting out the request for support to understand those changes that are in the energy system, what they mean to our region, and to identify how we can build the economic resilience in the context of what is a rapidly changing world. I think that, I believe that our region as major stakeholders in the journey of renewable energy need to be in the loop with all good understanding of all of the consequences and any potential opportunities that the region economic security and sustainability has. So by participating in phase 1, we can gain a really good understanding of what's unfolding around us, and then where we actually need to be in the greater picture. So happy to move that, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor, we have a mover. Councillor Latcham, did you have a further
Yeah, just a
comment?
different view, Mr Mayor.
I'll speak against the motion.
Against, yes. Yes, thank you. Speaking against the motion, the thing that I'm concerned about for the region's point of view is your residents of the region. We all know that research says that everyone wants to feel good about renewables and down this pathway, but they don't want to pay for it. They want it, but they don't want to pay for it. And the concern is, and it happened about 2 weeks ago in the Australian newspaper, and it referred to the cost. What is going to be the cost of adding and transferring and transitioning to renewables and the climate change stuff as well? It starts with a T, it's trillions. It's going to cost trillions over the next 20 years, not billions, trillions. When I look at that, that's potentially $100,000 every man, woman and child in Australia. $100,000 every man, woman and child. I'm not sure how many people can afford $100,000 to transition towards this new economy. And that's my concern, Mr Mayor, is what it's actually going to cost the community. We all want it, we all feel good about it, but we don't want to pay for it. And I know they'll argue that what's the cost to the earth and the climate change, but at the end of the day, you've got to have food on the table, and what's the cost? So I have concerns about where we're heading as a region.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Fisher, Speaker 4.
That's right. While I totally respect the concerns of Councillor Latcham, I see this as a way of actually sitting at the table. At the moment, I think renewables are not the answer for the future. They are going to have their legacies that our next generation are going to be forced to deal with. But I'm confident that the beyond renewables, those projects that are happening just on the fringes now, are going to be the great solution. And we've got some very, very knowledgeable people across the country working on those. So this is the opportunity that we have a seat at the table where we're actually looking and exploring at everything in the future. It's not just the pigeonhole, these are what's there, we support it. No, it's actually looking at what is going to be the best for the future, for our children, our grandchildren and beyond. So I encourage everyone to support this process, but this is not just a pigeonhole of what's there now, it's actually looking at all in the future. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Fisher. Another speaker against the motion. Councillors, I'll call a division, but I'll ask us the mover to surmise the recommendation. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yep, definitely just echoing again what Councillor Fisher has said, and this is all about us being at the table. It is absolutely about us having a full understanding of what is on the horizon, and then at that point, once we've been a little bit more educated around those things, to what we can do as a council and what's best for our region. That's what our job is, and so to not have this information at our hands is to be ignorant of what's upon the rest of the state and the country, in fact. So I totally support us moving through with phase 1, and we have an opportunity then to ask all of those hairy questions and to get some answers and to form our direction from there.
Okay, division's been called, so I'll ask for those in favour, please stand. Be Councillor Fisher, Councillor Mathers, Councillor Wickerson, Councillor Rutherford, Councillor Smith and Councillor Kirkland, and myself as Mayor. And those against? Councillor Latcham vote against it. Councillor, the motion's carried. Thank you. And appreciate the diversity and understanding everyone's positions in that space. Moving on to our next item, 11.2, which is the proposed planning scheme major amendment version 3.
Before you leave,
Sorry?
I've got to deal with Councillor
Rutherford.
Yeah, you will have to leave.
Councillor Wickerson
Yep.
leave, and Councillor Rutherford. I think we're not clear on that.
We are
We are?
clear as Mr Mayor, so before
Whose wedding are we going to? First start with Evan. And,
so Councillor Rutherford.
Councillor Rutherford, would you like to explain that declaration, please?
Yes, Mr Mayor. So according to the dot points on the cheat sheet, I do have a declarable interest.
Okay.
I guess, long friendship with Councillor Wickerson would put me in that category. I'm putting to the table, however, whether or not you believe I should leave, I believe I can be impartial in this matter. So I would like to stay, but will totally understand if the table chooses that I should leave.
Okay, Councillor, the table, there was any questions around that, or to Councillor Rutherford?
You've always remained in the meeting so far when it's come to we've had the discussion at the building planning. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I had, because yes, it didn't click until this one about
Yeah.
and I never, you don't actually think about the people sitting around this table, and it wasn't till I'm going, what is my relationship with Judy in this other one, and then I'm going, well, the relationship with Councillor Wickerson is probably closer. So, and that's what started, and I'm going, well, how does that, we went to Councillor Smith's birthday party. We tend to do those things. We all socialise at different points.
Definitely.
But, Councillor Wickerson's been a family friend for a long time, no different from Judy. So in my own mind, I can't, they both seem exactly the same.
You've just made that so much more complicated
Yeah.
to deal with. I
Yeah.
honestly felt that you didn't have a conflict, but the way you've explained it,
Yeah.
I actually
I
see it
don't
the
know.
other way around. Yeah.
And that will be the thing, I'm guessing, it's how the table sees this.
Yep.
Because that's what the community will see as well.
Mr Mayor, is this setting a precedent that if Councillor Wickerson has a conflict in the future, that you automatically have the same?
It's not a precedent, it is what the rules say.
The rules are, yeah.
But for here, it's the first time we've kind of encountered it.
We've grappled with it previously, but now it's becoming a lot clearer, particularly now we've got some definitions and examples from the department around it. And so effectively, when you deal with Councillor Rutherford's one, that will automatically come over to Councillor Mather's to do exactly the same, because he's a sibling. Yeah, but see, if you deal with it, you only have to deal with it once. So previously, Councillor Rutherford has raised in the same matter, and Councillor Mather's dealt with this. The council voted for Councillor Rutherford to stay in the meeting, and then also for Councillor Mather's to stay in the meeting, and the matter's dealt with now. That doesn't have to be dealt with again. So you only have to deal with these ones once, and that's all.
Okay then.
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Rutherford?
can I just add, on a broader scale here, some of that stuff assumes that we cannot be fair and impartial, and that we don't have the integrity to do that, which is entirely incorrect. There are so many times, and particularly in smaller communities, where we know a lot about a lot of people and what's happening, and we have to come into this room and we have to make decisions that are bad for our community and decisions that are good for our community, and we do that on a daily basis, and at some point I go, you know what, we have to stand up for our right to be, that we can be fair and impartial, and that's why I'm putting this to the table rather than just leaving the room.
It's about that declaration. That's
Yeah,
all the
that's-
Act
I
really
think that's-
defines, is declaring your conflict.
Declaring, yeah.
And that's the main intention of it.
Yeah.
And then the statement that you're going to be impartial and hear the debate and vote in the public interest is probably what needs to be just publicly stated, and that's it. Done.
Okay, on that, I don't think there's further discussion, councillors. I'm happy to move to support Councillor Rutherford remain in the meeting. Seek a seconder. Councillor Kirkland, put that. I think we just get the wording right, councillors. It is. It's one we'll probably grapple with over a number of decisions. But if it's on the record, I think the council has covered. The council's made the decision as far as that impartiality goes, and we can continue with the meeting. Councillor Kirkland, I moved, and Councillor Kirkland second. I haven't put the motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? The motion's carried. Sorry, Councillor, you don't get a say on that one. Okay, and record who voted. Okay.
And that council made probably will have to do the same declaration as that because the relationship with council made.
They're all intertwined. I think we're going to have to split them up. We might have to put over Councillor Wickerson on this side of the table. That said, I think it's yeah, if it's covered in the if we've got that information on the record, then it's great. Everyone's covered off in that space. So again, Councillor Mathers, you'd like to participate in the discussion and ask the table that question?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I would,
Yep.
if that's okay.
No, that's fine. I think we've been through it, and you're in the same vein as Councillor Rutherford, that you can deal with the matter impartially.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, if I could, I don't know if this is all right or not, Mr CEO, but in regards to my other conflict of interest, I just wanted to use as an example, with impartiality and that type of thing. So, long-term personal friends, I've declared it, and to make things easy, I'm just going to leave the room. But, if I had the ability to stay, they're personal friends. I know what their thoughts are about that development, and I know the way that I would vote would be completely impartial to that. So, but
I don't think
I know that, but it's a matter of
any
what
more than where
the
it's at. But I think it'd be the council table to make that call, and you need to explain that reasoning around there. But on this item, because of the relationship there, needs to be dealt with. Again, I'm happy to move that the resolution that you remain with to deal with the matter. Seek a seconder. Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Councillors, those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Councillor Fisher, Smith, Kirkland and Latcham. So that's, technical. Okay, righto. Thanks very much, Cam. I hope that's a very short presentation, because that took a long time to get here. But thank you, Cam.
Thanks, Mayor, and good morning, Mayor and councillors. So everybody's still in the room. Most are still in the room, which is fantastic. So the report I have this morning is in relation to Major Amendment version 3 to the Rockhampton Region Planning Scheme. As councillors would be aware, earlier this year we undertook public consultation. We received 6 submissions during that public consultation process. The details are outlined in the report in relation to those submissions. The motion is for council to submit a notice to the Minister requesting approval to adopt the proposed Major Amendment version 3, also known as the Ministerial Review process. I'm happy to go through the details of the amendment itself, otherwise I'm happy to take questions.
Thanks very much, Cam. Councillors, questions there? Councillor Mathers, the portfolio spokesperson.
More than happy to move the motion, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Councillors, questions? Councillor Latcham?
Yeah, happy to second it, but just a question to Cam, if I may first, Mr Mayor. By looks of the diagram, is it a gated community? Has it got a gate at the front?
Wrong. That's the next item.
It's the next one. Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Councillor Fisher?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just a comment. This is sort of something that virtually we've got to do. I still have issues with the stormwater planning and the impacts that it could have on our infrastructure, where that has been part of the cause of some of the stormwater and the mapping. I still have issues with that. I know that this is sort of something that we virtually have to do, but I feel that this is going to come back and cause some budgetary problems into the future in some of those identified areas. So I just need to sort of make sure that we are aware that we have got a few of those issues that could come back and bite us. But it's something we can't not vote for it, because this is what the powers above us need, but just raising that again.
Any comment on that, Cam?
In relation to the stormwater issues, I think we all acknowledge that we've got some older areas throughout the city, and the engineers certainly have drainage schemes for all those areas, and there's obviously it's an expensive exercise, but unfortunately it's a legacy that we have, and there's no escaping that. So,
Yeah. Thanks, Cam. Councillor Smith.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Cam, I must have missed this one last time when we talked about it, because I know I did have queries about a few things in this last time we spoke about it. Must have been at a briefing session. Update refined agricultural land classification map to align with state government mapping. Is that for feedlotting and intense agriculture like that, or is that to align with properties that are around the Rookwood Weir?
So in relation to that particular mapping, it's purely to reflect our state government overlay mapping, which we need to reflect in the planning scheme. So I would imagine in the future we can always put in a submission to the state to review that mapping based on Rookwood Weir. At the moment, my understanding is that hasn't been taken into account for those major infrastructure projects. The mapping is based on a number of factors, including soil types, obviously slope, and I guess in relation to the planning scheme itself, it's an overlay from the state that we need to reflect. We don't have a lot of choice, and I guess this amendment is just simply reflecting that state overlay. But if council wishes to, we can put in a submission to the state about that particular mapping.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillors, that exhausts our questions. We have a mover and a seconder. No further questions. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. We'll invite Councillor Wickerson back into the room. Thanks very much, Cameron. And we'll do this shuffle, Councillor Mathers. For the next.
Yeah, good.
That's me.
All right, we'll move on to 11.3, the development application for me to change the use of multiple dwellings, 12 units. Welcome back, Councillor Wickerson, and we'll hand over to Brendan to walk us through that one. Thanks very much, Brendan.
Get started. Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. This is a development application for a development permit for material change of use for 12 units over a vacant lot at the termination of College Drive in Norman Gardens. The site is an approximate 2,500 metre square lot that is zoned low density residential. It's bound by detached dwellings to the south and a vacant block to the north, which is also zoned low density residential, earmarked for future residential development. It's located approximately 700 metres walking distance from the Norman Road Nagle Drive or centre zone, and also a future district park. So the proposal includes the site gaining access from the end of College Drive. There'll be 6 detached dwellings located on both the north and southern side of that internal access, with landscaping within and surrounding the site. Dwelling density is approximately 1 dwelling per 375 square metres, which is slightly higher than the preferred outcome in the planning scheme, which is 1 dwelling per 400 square metres for the low density residential zone. Probably as a condition of approval, most notably, it includes the requirement for the developer to construct a cul-de-sac at the end of College Drive. Previously, when that road was constructed, the intent was for it to continue through to the land to the northwest and link up with another part of Norman Gardens. That didn't happen, so there's a pretty abrupt termination of College Drive, and currently people have to go onto the verge to turn around there. So the requirement is for the developer to construct that cul-de-sac and improve that outcome. There was 8 submissions received objecting the proposal. Most of those submissions all those submissions came from residents on Diploma Street, which is those houses immediately to the south of the site, and also on College Drive. The grounds of those submissions are included in the council report and have been addressed. The development application has been recommended for approval subject to the conditions in that report. To the extent that there were any conflicts with the planning scheme around things like dwelling density exceeding that 400 square metres or it not being located on a higher order road. We believe that regard to relevant matters, including obviously a housing crisis and the need to provide a diversity of housing choice to different people overrides those conflicts, so that's the reason we're recommending it for approval.
Councillor Aitken.
Now I'm on it, Mr Mayor. Apologies from before. The question is, by the looks of the diagram, is it gated community? Is that correct?
That's right. The application was a proposal for a gated community. In response to some of the submissions received and just based on planning principles with condition it can't be gated, just trying to discourage any gated communities just for the sake of community cohesion and things like that. So there is a condition saying they cannot gate front entrance.
Yeah, should mention there are other gated communities in
There
North
are. Historically, I think going forward, the preference would be to try and discourage them where we can.
Yeah. And I guess crime in the area, that's probably a big concern as to why you'd want to have a gated community.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I think overall the preference would be to try and get people to integrate rather than seclude themselves. So.
Yep, no, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Fisher and then Councillor Smith and Wickerson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is, with College Drive not being there for future access, for further development, is that going to impede potentially seeing the land beyond that being developed for housing?
There is further access, like there's a road to the northwest which is intended to continue through, so the intent would obviously be for College Drive to link up with that at some point previously, but there is the option there for any future developer to work around that. There is still access available to that land for future development, just from a different point.
Thank you for that.
It doesn't landlock it, there's another access point.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Smith?
Oh, look, I'm a lousy gardener, but landscaping is always one of my concerns.
Yeah.
Can we just go back to that photo? The landscaping doesn't seem to go right along. See this, oh, okay, so that's going up to the building. So it's on the other side.
Yeah.
But this side, they're not, it's all concrete, is it? So they can't put landscaping there?
That's right. So that in that figure there, as you can see, that's to the south, which is that border that is a common boundary between Diploma Street. There are houses there, so that image may be misleading, but the rest of the site, for example, the street trees at the entrance to College Drive there, and also landscaping within the site, we have recommended conditions that require that landscaping to be provided.
Okay. So are those trees actually in the background there? Like, is that?
Yeah, so that site prior to this development application was cleared, but there is still vegetation. There's a waterway that runs along that northern boundary. The mature vegetation within that waterway has been retained. So along that northern boundary there is existing mature trees.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wickerson?
Well, thanks, Mayor. Through you, can we go back to the overall site plan, please? Oh, sorry, Linda. No, sorry, Linda, the drawing. Yeah, that one. Just a couple of questions with that, please. The number of visitor car parks ratio to the units, is that within the standard? It just seems a bit light on for so many units.
Yeah, across the site, through the chair, across the site they've provided additional car parking spaces beyond what's required by the planning scheme. So the planning scheme requires for a multiple dwelling development a minimum of one covered car parking space per dwelling. They've provided two, so there is a surplus of on-site car parking spaces. So while it may be a bit short on the visitor side, there's additional for each dwelling. So the expectation would be that would cater for the shortfall in any visitor car parking.
Okay, thank you. And similar to that, the amount of open space available to each unit, like some are quite generous by the look of it, but some, particularly on this boundary at the lower part, the southern boundary, not a lot of open space for the unit. Again, does that comply with what standards would need?
Like you said, yeah, through the chair, like you said, some of the dwellings obviously have more space than others. But I guess in these types of development, the expectation would be that certain people may not want to, have to cater for or maintain a larger private open space area. There is the area just to the further west of the site, which is zoned open space. So there is quite like a vast area of open space zone land directly near the site. It is a drainage area, but it does give people the option of using that land. And also, I just highlight there is like a relatively small communal open space area joining those visitor car parking spaces. So while there is a shortfall with some, overall we think it provides appropriate housing choice for different tenants and different owners.
Okay, no, thank you very much for that. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, councillors, looks like we've exhausted the questions. Oh, Councillor
Sorry,
Rutherford.
Mr Mayor, I was a bit late putting my light on. I was trying to find it because I'm sure I read here somewhere that the stormwater impact still needed to be assessed.
That's right. Yeah.
And a further report would be required.
Yeah.
What happens, just as a matter of curiosity, what happens if that was to come back saying it had significant issues on stormwater?
Yeah.
What then?
Through the chair, typically in a scenario where council officers were particularly concerned that effectively deferring the assessment of the stormwater management to a later point was going to have dramatic changes to the site layout, we'd be pushing for it as part of the material change of use application process. So in this case, council officers in the development engineering unit were relatively confident that they could address stormwater management at a later date without it requiring any significant changes to the site layout. In a scenario where it did require significant changes, the applicant would have to go back and do a change to this material change of use application, and it'd be presented back to the council.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Okay, Councillor, that brings us to the end of the discussion. We have a mover and a seconder. Moved Councillor Latcham, seconded Councillor Wickerson. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. We'll invite Councillor Mathers back to the room, and then we'll move on to our next item 11.4, proposed telecommunications facility at 50 Nagle Drive, Norman Gardens. Thanks, Councillor Mathers. Hand over to Kelly to present the report. Thanks very much, Kelly.
Good morning, Mayor and Councillors. Just presenting a report today for a proposed lease of part of 50 Nagle Drive for the purpose of a telecommunications tower facility, and the proposed tenant is Indara Corporation. So just highlighting a few things in the report. So the proposed rent is $18,000 per annum. For a total term of 20 years, and the lease would be subject to a reconfigure of a lot application. That's because the lease term's longer than 10 years under the Planning Act, and also a material change of use. With the material change of use, that is impact accessible, so full public consultation, and planning have advised that the decision for the MCU would come back to the council table with an officer's recommendation. Any questions?
Thanks very much, Kelly. Questions? Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just, Kelly, just a couple of questions from within the report. I was just intrigued by some of the information by Ventia, is it? Ventia? They mentioned on there a facility was recently proposed at 652 Norman Garden Road, Norman Gardens, and it talks about council has refused that proposal.
I know, and it was actually approved. So at the time they submitted that, I think it was laid on the table for further consideration, I understand.
Okay, it's a timing thing.
Yes,
okay.
timing.
Next question is, the proposed facility is very close to the reservoir, and so my question is kind of, Fitzroy River Water workers, do they have to climb up to the top of the reservoir, and if so, from that height, how far from there to the tower itself, what's the distance between the tower and the top of the reservoir? And is it within safe limits?
Not sure, but just through the chair, so to answer your question, FRW officers have been on site with Indara's consultants, and they have actually worked together to choose the most suitable site for the facility on that land. So I can only assume that all the safety precautions were taken into consideration of the actual location. So FRW are satisfied with the actual proposed location in a context of relative to the actual reservoir.
Just that I recall, there's only from the top of the telecommunications tower, within so many metres of that, it's a hazard to be within close proximity to like the electromagnetic waves. So I'm just concerned, is it still too close to someone who would be on top of the reservoir? I mean, it seems fairly close.
Yeah.
I see Ross there. Ross, did you want to respond
Through
to
the
that
chair,
one,
yeah. Any work, if it does go ahead, councillor, the risk assessment's done by the team before they enter any environment like that, so that is all taken into account in that process before work actually proceeds. If that's the case.
That's fine. I just wanted to check that was all safe. The interesting thing as well was the letter, the dates of community consultation. I mean, that's probably a different matter for another day, I guess. But I was just concerned the dates don't match up with when they said that the community was consulted.
Yes, so through the chair. So that was the draft letters that came through to us. So then they had to get our approval. I made some changes. They had some incorrect terminology and so forth there. So then by the time they got the letters out, so there's just a time between that.
Will they need to go through a whole new community consultation process?
Under the planning, what the Planning Act requires through the development assessment application. So this consultation is just for the request to lease and completely separate and very different to what the requirements are under the Planning Act for the MCU application that they need to do.
Okay, and last question, if I may. In the report, it mentions that the Baptist or the church on Norman Road wasn't approved or wasn't approved by council, and ignoring that point of it. But the point is, in the report, it says that this new location would have easily covered that whole area of Norman Gardens. I was surprised that the reverse doesn't apply. So when the Norman Road, the Baptist church there, put in the application, it was kind of said, well, there's still spots missing that it doesn't cover, and yet this one will cover that whole area, including where that new other telecommunications tower is going.
I can't answer the technical questions of coverage. I can just go by what they've advised. Obviously, the Nagle Drive is higher, so I assume that's where it has more reach.
No, that's okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Latcham. Councillor Kirkland.
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a quick question, and I think I know the answer, but I did want to ask it regardless. If the MCU is declined, if it's the officer's recommendation that doesn't continue through, does the lease automatically terminate?
They would then give 6 months' notice under the lease. That's if we've got the lease terms negotiated by them. So if council resolves today to approve the request to lease, at the same time it approves Evan to provide, CEO to provide owner's consent for their application. So we still have to negotiate the terms of the lease, and that can generally take a while. So it might sort of work hand in hand with the lease may not commence until development approval is received.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kirkland. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I've got a couple. One is to Ross, I guess, onto what the information he gave us. Ross, if during our risk assessment we found out that was going to be either we couldn't maintain that reservoir or it was going to be more costly to to maintain the reservoir, what then? Should we have a clause in the lease agreement that says they have to cover that extra cost, or they turn a tower off for the length of time we maintain? I don't know if even a tower can be turned off. What happens in that case?
Just through the chair, a part, I guess, of an answer to that question is under our policy for telecommunication facilities, if it is on reservoir land, there's automatically an extra $5,000 of rent charge per annum, and that's to cover the additional costs of access and things like that may occur from time to time. So the actual rent's been assessed at $13,000, so add on the $5,000 purely just because it's a reservoir site. So that may help alleviate if there are extra costs with access. So that's one part of it.
Thanks, Caroline. Through the chair. I can't answer technical questions, I'm sorry, but I would assume that yes, it would be compensated for if we have to close it down to do works, critical works, that sort of stuff, but there's no way that our staff would be going into a site that's not safe. And because these works, maintenance work does have to happen in all sites around the place, I can only assume that there would be protocols in place to shut down to do service works.
We have other facilities with these
with them on.
towers on existing, so I'm sure there's a process there that's covered off in that as well.
And second question, please, Mr Mayor, and that's probably just about the cumulative impacts. Do we ever consider the cumulative impacts of these when they're placed fairly close together? So every individual one, they say it's fine, you know, health is all good. But if we're starting to get 3 or 4 within a certain space, do we ever consider that?
I believe that's probably addressed under the telecommunications facilities. They've got codes of practice and all those requirements. They have to be licensed under ACMA, so I assume with the licensing, like I can't answer to those technical requirements of that, so, but they do all have to be licensed under ACMA and adhere to the code of practice for the telecommunication carriers.
Yeah. The thing that worries me about that, Mr Mayor, is that often cumulative impact is never considered. You know, they're licensed and as individual, no one seems to sit and go, well, you know, hold on, there's 3 there and 3's probably the most that you can, and I'm just pulling figures out of the air, you know, and I wonder whether it is something that we need to have a look at to see how many can be placed in a site before it becomes a health issue.
Yeah, and again, I haven't got that technical advice, Councillor. It may be something we can ask that question through to one of the providers to give that information on you know, distances and cluster of these types of facilities. So yeah, we could take that on note. I'm sure they'd be able to provide that information if we ask that question.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wickerson.
Well, thanks, Mr Mayor. This question's probably a little bit out there, but through you to probably Evan, I'd say, does council not have a conflict of interest with this, that we're entering into a commercial arrangement?
No, we don't.
Even though the sums aren't high, I know, but...
No, we don't have conflict of interest.
No.
You're acting in the public interest.
Okay. If we owned land, another example, if we owned land that a developer wanted to buy and we're going to lease or sell it to them and then they come back to the same party to get approvals, is there a line that we would have a conflict?
No.
No?
No, they're excluded.
Okay, just wanted to check. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wickerson. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Question as far as previous phone towers in council parks has gone back to that income earned is to upgrade park facilities in the near area. Will that happen with this as well?
Through the Chair, no, because the council policy states that if the tower is located in a park, then it goes, the revenue goes back to the parks, but this is located on an operational reservoir site, so it doesn't go to parks. The revenue goes to FRW.
FRW.
Yes.
Maybe we might need to review that policy, Mr Mayor. Maybe put that up for some discussion in the future. Thank you for that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Fisher. No further questions on that item. Could we seek a mover and a seconder with regards to the officer's recommendation? Or I'm happy to move, seek a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Kelly. We'll move on to our...
Foreshadow that we asked for a report to come back to review that policy. Oh, sorry.
To the council table to a briefing.
A briefing?
Yes.
Briefing. We'll look at that matter and have a discussion around that, councillors. So
Just catch the words.
Yeah. That if
the telecommunications review the telecommunications policy with regards to location
and where
revenue from the lease
to a future briefing session.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Happy to move that.
Yeah, I move Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Latcham. Got enough there? No further discussion. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Councillor Fisher. We'll move on to our next item, the item 11.5, the summary budget management report for a period ending the 31st March 2023. Marnie, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And good morning, everyone. So we have The report to March, the end of March, so 3/4 of the way through the financial year. And just ensuring that our operating revenue is sitting above budget at the moment, with the majority of that contributed by net rates and utility charges, which are at 94% of our budget. Fees and charges are slightly under, but that is that's most likely due to the timing of various events that council will participate in or has participated in, particularly around Rocky Nuts and the show coming in June. Private and recoverable works are slightly under budget at 71%, but other income is ahead of budget at 91%. All other revenue items are within the proximity of the budget. In terms of expenditure, we're sitting within budget at 72%, so that's a positive outcome at this point in the year. Contractors and consultants are still at 67%. They're generally below budget, professional consultancies and other contractors, because of time planning, the works planned, and whether that will progress and ramp up closer to the end of the financial year. Materials and plant expenses are above budget at 80%, and asset operational expenses are under budget at 68%. Those admin expenses are sitting below budget, also at 57%, and our finance costs are slightly over budget at 78%. However, that will be being offset by our interest being earned on our cash that's held as well, so that's kind of offset in that space. Capital income is 39% of budget, and capital expenditure is at 52%. So I guess I make a comment there, councillors, around the capital program, is that we're currently in the process of reviewing that and doing a wholesale review of both this year's position of capital and where it will end up at the 30th of June, and further to that, what will look like in the future 10-year program. So that's still very much being looked at, and we will come back to council with more concise reporting on that in the coming weeks, so we'll be able to sit down and review what the capital program actually looks like moving forward. Our total investments are sitting at 113.7 million, and loans are at 134.6. We did see quite a large spend on capital during the month of March at 12.1 million, so overall we've spent 81.5 million on capital, keeping in mind that we still have quite a large capital budget sitting there that hasn't yet been reduced down, as I just mentioned, in relation to review as we move forward into next financial year. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Marnie. Questions? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fisher.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Going through the summary, one area there that I do take great pride in, and as Chair of Rockhampton Airport, that it is continually improving with the revenue to council. Now, there was only an article just recently in the Australian Financial Review where some of the largest of the airports in Australia are showing their third negative year of trading. And when we have a regional airport that is owned by the community that is actually bucking the trend, and bucking the trend in a big way, I think that is something there that we should be really sort of shouting from the treetops that, hey, we can make an airport work far more successfully than some of those big operators.
Thanks, Councillor Fisher. Support that. I think there's a lot of business activity that's occurring in the region as well, and you know, with new airlines coming on, it does increase that as well. So it's great to see that there's a return coming back to the council. Again, the capital program, it'll be interesting to work through the review of that. It was a very ambitious target from last year's budget, but one that we with a number of major projects on the books that we need to deal with. It's great to see that we're starting to chip away at some of that capital work, and that review will give us good understanding as we lead into next year's budget as well. So thanks very much for that work, Marnie.
Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions to Marnie on that review? Otherwise, I'm happy to move. Seek and seconded. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. We'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Brings us on to our last item of 11.6, the whole of Council Corporate Performance Review. Ross, we do have that in the briefing session, but if there's questions from councillors in relation to anything there that they wanted to raise at the table before we put that recommendation. If not, I'm happy to move recommendation. Seek a seconder. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Fisher. We'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Moving on to notice of motions. Notice of motion, Councillor Neil Fisher, Lawmac meeting and workshop in Cooktown. Councillor Fisher, did you wish to speak to that recommendation?
Yes, councillors, this past 12 months, at the beginning of the year, beginning of the financial year, I worked very closely to budget, our travel budget, knowing that I chair a group representing over 30 councils in North Queensland and looking at the budget and how I could keep my travel budget to what we had set. Couple of things that I didn't anticipate were a couple of the CQ Rock travels that came in at short notice. I thought I was like last year, would come through with cents left to spare. I'm actually going to just go over with that budget there with the trip. Also, I'd like to sort of say I have tried to, within that budget, drive wherever, go to reduce costs. Like Cooktown, my wife is actually taking time off work to share the driving because that was quite a significant expense. I think about $1,600 return from Cairns to Cooktown. So I have done everything I can to keep in budget, but I'm just going to go over. So I just put in it there that while I've tried, I just seek your support to just have cover those that small amount that I will run over.
Thanks, Councillor Fisher. Look, I'm happy to move. I think I've asked Councillor Fisher to delegate a few of my responsibilities during that time as well, which is call on his ability to have to move around as well. But it's very important with the Lawmac and where we're heading in the waste and our waste strategy and what's happening to align with the state government. But there's a lot of work in that space that continues to evolve. That at the end of the day, there's some massive impacts financially that we're trying to work through to resolve, and they require meetings and working through our collaboration with other councils in that space. So, and your role in that space of Lawmac's acknowledged across the state as well. So, Councillor Fisher, on that note. Okay, I've still got some questions. I might go to the questions first and then come back. So I see Councillor Rutherford, then Councillor Latcham, then Councillor Mathers. Councillor Rutherford.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillor Fisher, I thought this one was one that they paid because of your position. The last time you went away, they actually paid for it, so I didn't think that this actually cost council anything. So what's changed there?
Actually, nothing's changed. Where I go representing Lawmac, my cost of travel is covered by Lawmac. This is actually a Lawmac meeting, as they hold meetings 4 times a year and workshops, and that is an expense of council, each of the councillors who attend.
Yeah. So at one point you were going up to step away from that role, and Councillor Latcham, it's sort of his portfolio. So what's happened in between there? Is Councillor Latcham going to this?
Councillor Latcham would be attending. I'm still, my tenure is still there at the moment, and I have sort of said at the end of this tenure there I would reconsider, but that'll go to after the next election. So quite often it might be the public that decide that, but the role with Lawmac, it's become a little bit more critical to local government with the amount of changes going on, particularly within the sphere of waste and recovery. So there has been a little bit more intense work, but this is just a meeting as such. and that we go through.
Yeah. So just on a more general note, so do we have officers going to this one as well?
I can answer that, Mr CEO, if you like. Yes, actually, this time, even our Peter Coford is attending this meeting. It is becoming something of more critical to the issues at hand. It's more critical to council than probably ever before in the 30 years that Lawmac have been working.
So it's obviously a very expensive one. If it's $1,600 in airfares, we're just in airfares alone, how many people, how much is it, and how many people are we sending?
4, I'd say, is it?
Yeah, I think
or
it's
2 officers and 2 councillors.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Rutherford. Councillor Latcham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I support this one. The dilemma that Councillor Fisher has is we didn't have Bonza Airlines at that stage to have the affordable flights to get up there. And that was the issue. And I know myself personally, I held off as much as I could, but then when the flights between Cairns and Cooktown started booking out, it made it very difficult. So I did consider driving. It's a long way. It's probably not something I want to do. But at the end of the day, I got in early enough to get reasonably priced flights and also be able to connect from Cairns to Cooktown. Now, it's very important what the role that Rockhampton Region does in waste and recycling, and it's more about the advocacy as well and where we're heading and how we're going to deal with the impact of the state levy. And it's good to see Peter Coford coming along this time round, and I think Michael O'Keefe will be attending. So we've got the top people in the organisation going, and it's great to see them supporting and wanting to contribute. I'll be on the final note. It's like I said, I wouldn't have preferred the drive there, but I'm glad to see that Councillor Fisher's wife's driving with him, because that's a long drive and it will require swapping drivers to do it safely. So I'm happy to second this motion.
Yeah, I think we have a second, Councillor Smith. Just some further questions, Councillor Mathers and Councillor Kirk.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. I've just got a comment, if that's okay, in regards to Deputy Mayor Fisher. Look, to me, this question has nothing to do with the work you're doing or the work the Lawmac's doing. You know, I take my hat off to what you've been doing with that organisation, and I think it's very important work. The concern that I have is purely and simply in regards to the budget. You know, Council, as you know, we're working very hard to stay within budget and in every aspect. CEO works very closely with all the general managers and managers to give them a budget and to keep them within budget. And quite often we find ourselves sitting around the table here going, we really want to make this improvement, we'd like to do this. And we're going back to officers going, I'm very sorry, but we can't do that because we don't have the budget. It's not within budget. That budget has been set. We sit down as councillors and we talk about budgets, and we have budgets that are set yearly for travel and also for training. And I believe it's our responsibility to make sure that we work as hard as we can, and I understand you have, to make sure that we fit within budget.
We're not getting into debate, Councillor. Okay. I've just got to be careful.
All right, sorry. Yes, sorry. So I suppose that's... The point I was trying to make, Mr Mayor, was this is not about the work that's being done. No. To me, the way I look at it is purely and simply the fact that we all have budgets set, yep, and this is outside of budget.
Yeah, and probably, yeah, I think we'll get into debate there if we go further with that one. Councillor Kirkland.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillor Fisher, have there been any discussions around carpooling, given that there are the 4 people going to make alleviate some of those financial constraints?
I think with the officers,
Sorry, I would prefer the officers up back. Their cost of their wages is just their cost of time. It's just too much to be away for an extended period of time.
Which necessitates it being everybody travelling individually.
Yeah, well, I'd say the 2 officers. I won't talk for flying up. We're going that way, so flying to Brisbane and then I suppose through to Cairns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, we have a mover and a seconder. Speakers for, speakers against. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Wish to record that? Councillor Mathers. Motion's carried. Councillor Mathers wishes to record his vote against the motion. Thank you, councillors. Again, we're in a very area that needs some consolidation in that space, and we're seen as the leader in that space because we've got the technical staff in that space that's trying to work with the state government to achieve their goals in their waste reduction. But we've got to explain our position, and that's very difficult in this time where we're trying to work to timelines that are forcing us to reassess where we're at. So these meetings are very critical in portraying that information back to the state government. So I support that in that space. So, okay, councillors, moving on. There's no questions on notice, no urgent business. We do have an item to be dealt with in closed session, and it's closed session recommended that closes the meeting to the public to discuss the following items, which is a legal matters report, the 1st of January 2023 to 31st of March, and that's in accordance with the section 254J3 of the local government regulations for the reasons indicated. So I'm happy to move as recommended. Seek a seconder. Deputy Mayor Councillor Fisher. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. And that pursuant of S512 council meeting procedures, that the meeting moves into closed session and be closed to the public. Again, happy to move. Seek a seconder. Councillor Wickerson. Put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks very much.
Everybody swimming in sunshine. Everybody feeling fine. Everybody join the fun line. Ain't nobody left behind. Everybody swimming. Taking the good with the ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
We live? Okay, thanks very much. Councillors, confidential report that the officer's recommendation of the legal matters report update on legal matters Rockhampton Regional Council as 31st of March be received. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wickerson, seconded Councillor Smith. I'll put that. Those in favour? Those opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Wickerson.
Mayor, at the end, if I could have a few moments just to give some thanks for Anzac.
Yeah, no, that'd be fine. We'll move into that. Thank you. We'll close the meeting, or you didn't want to move any?
Within the meeting, if that's possible.
Within the meeting, yeah, no, that's okay. Happy.
Thank you, Mayor, for your time. I just wanted to put on public record some thanks for Anzac Day, and I appreciate your comments earlier. It's not me, I'm just sitting in the chair. There's a great committee behind it, but many other people, either within council or outside, and probably starting with Zach's events team, with Jess Cheeseman and Eileen, who sat diligently on the committee and worked like those ducks behind the scene to make sure that all the moving parts come together. Within council, here we've got our executive support team with Megan and Nikki, who organised all of my colleagues around the table to visit the schools, have books for us to hand out, which are, as Councillor Fisher pointed out, are very well received throughout the schools, and the community love it. Also the Parks and Recreation Department that, again, work right through the region to make sure that even the smallest parks at Marmore, Bajul, Mount Morgan and Gracemoon, everywhere, as well as the Botanic Gardens, our signature place, are schmick. So that's certainly appreciated. And put flags up and arrange all sorts of things. The Pilbeam Theatre team, the tech team, make sure we have sound and lighting at a number of sites around, and chairs, I think, is that right? Around the place, so that's appreciated. Civil Ops also do a lot of traffic management and signage, putting out to make sure the road closures are in place, along with our colleagues with SES. A little bit biased there, I missed out on putting the signs out, but I certainly noted what work they did. And last but not least, and I thank colleagues that were at, and you, Mayor, that were at the breakfast after the dawn service, to thank two particular gentlemen. One is Mr Alan Sisley, who put 25 years, the last 25 years as our MC at the dawn service and has retired this year, where we had an understudy come up, Captain Misty, and also Mr Paul Watkins, who's been our Grand Marshal at the March. Was his last year as well, and I'm his new understudy, so we'll all go pear-shaped next year, I promise. No, kidding. So a range of people to make it such a great day, and again, behind the scenes, a lot of work goes on that the public wouldn't see, but it makes the whole region commemorate this very important day all that more special, I think. So yeah, thanks to all those people.
No, there's so many comments of recommendation and support for the event, and again, it takes a lot of people working behind the scenes to make it such a successful event. And again, like I mentioned, the councillors for your work in the other locations. There's a broad region. I know Councillor Smith and Rutherford are up early putting in the Ks to get to those events and making sure there's representation there. Unfortunately, we can't be at everything, but we try our level best to do that. So yeah, again, credit to the councillors for your role on the day through a number of services and events. Councillor Smith.
Oh, I just want to make a special mention to Councillor Kirkland, who at the second time now she's filled in for me at Bouldercombe, so I can go to Gracemere. It's a long way from her place out to Baldy, so I'd just like to thank her very much.
Well, thanks, Councillor.
She's very
Kirkland.
popular at Bouldercombe.
There you go. You build that rapport over the years, and that's something there. Like Councillor Mather's taken over, I'll pass the baton over with my little baby at the Stenhouse Park there, so it's great to see that ability, people stepping into those roles and helping our community through those ones. But it's great to see the schools and the participation of the schools, and what that means for the legacy of Anzac Day is it's in really good hands. So on that note, I think enough commendation to everyone for that, but again, we'll look forward to next year's event. On that, I'll officially close the meeting and thank everyone and officers for the reports and councillors for your participation. Thank you.